It was pink. Yeah. We will call the meeting to order, personnel for August. And Sandy, we have a call?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Danielle. So first thing is just minutes from the July 7th meeting. Dave? Somebody, Sue?
Find out.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Department staffing requests. At the top. County attorney.
Yep, county attorney, we have a backfill for the secretary to the county attorney, and this is due to a transfer within the county.
Dave, moved by Dave. Second by Sue, discussion. All in favor?
When you get this, when you note on there about the number of hours, Steve Creedy, I'm going back to my oversight committee, asked to have that raised before.
Okay.
Steve Creedy, that's all.
All right. Okay. They meet the month, right? Sometime?
Yeah, I missed the last meeting. Otherwise I would have done that doctor's appointments.
Okay. Well, the guy's not here to warn her, but it'll be pending. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Vote carried. Next, we're gonna go to district attorney.
The district attorney has a backfill for a legal assistant, and this is due to someone resigning.
Okay, Dave. We're gonna do Dave and Sue just to make Sandy down a little bit. Okay. Legal assistant. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, carried. ADA.
There is,
Didn't we just do one? Or we've been talking about this so much that it seems like it's.
yeah.
You had one, but no one's left.
Oh, we added one. Oh, right. Okay, thank you. Yep.
So we do have a backfill for the assistant district attorney. This is due to a resignation as well.
I'll second that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
UPW next, right?
Yep.
Works.
So we actually have highway worker 2, we have 2 backfills. One is for a straight resignation, and the other is going to be a cascade from the backfill that I'll be requesting for a heavy equipment mechanic.
Okay, so there's really 2 openings here, but
Yes,
we're doing 3 things just so that somebody can move it to a different.
yes, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So
So I don't know if you want to do all 3 at once or just do each of them.
if I asked Al, he'd want to do all 3 of them. But so how about if we do the 2 highway worker 2 backfills together?
Okay. One would be due to a resignation and the other one would be due to a position change.
The first and the second discussion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And now a heavy equipment mechanic. Heavy equipment mechanic, right?
Yes, the backfill for a heavy equipment mechanic due to retirement, right? That's the cast, the highway 2 to.
Right, it's okay. Good. Dave, Sue, discussion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, carried. Next on to IT.
So IT is asking for just a straight title change from a help desk manager to a service manager. She said that this could help with recruitment a little bit more in the IT world, so we wanted to make that change for her.
So this has to go through full board. It's a staffing pattern change, but it doesn't change the
It
dollars and cents,
Right,
and it doesn't really change anything else but the name.
right. And it would have to change on the title by grade, just the title would change
Ah.
in that.
But the grade was the same.
Right.
Okay. Sue's doing the second time. Coming late, you know what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm trying to speed along, but if you want to pull it down, go ahead.
Okay.
Give them down.
With the change.
We're trying to get it in.
Does that make change it as far as if there's job description.
No,
No, nothing.
No change.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Now, social services.
so social services, we have a backfill for a caseworker, and this is due to a resignation.
Okay, any of these cascading, they're all individuals.
And
They're all individual, okay, all right. Got David,
well,
Sue, well,
yeah, yes and no, I guess. We could do one cascade if you want. Clerk is moving to social services examiner, but it's.
that one moving
One of
on.
those.
Okay, so that's it.
So then they're filling it.
Gotcha. I'm not trying to figure there's 3 backfills, there's 4 backfills. It's really just 3 because one.
Right.
Okay. All right, let's see what, start with the caseworker, Dave, Sue. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Back to the clerk next.
Backfill the clerk, and this is due to moving to a social services examiner position.
Dave, Sue. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And then we have
The social services.
We have 2 social services examiner backfills, both due to promotions.
I'll move that one.
Second.
Sandy, I'm trying to, look what these guys are doing. Carol, yeah, see,
Like you were rookie, too.
just gonna deal with you and Evers, so we'll probably get the cake and bread.
Help you out a lot.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Now we're making a title change.
A staffing pattern change.
Okay.
Actually, she's asking to downgrade the vacant senior clerk position, which it is vacant, and she wants to fill it with a clerk instead of a senior clerk. So we would have to change the staffing pattern to remove senior clerk and add clerk.
Gotcha. Dave? Kathy? Good thing all the way around. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, and then another one came up.
Assigned counsel.
Right.
They have a backfill for the administrator of legal defense of indigents. It's
Make a
due to
motion.
a resignation.
I'll make
Was
a
that you,
motion.
Darryl?
Yep, I'll make a
I
motion.
couldn't hear you over the rippling water behind you.
Can you hear me now?
Not really.
Yeah, okay, Darryl, have a second? Yes. Right, that's straightforward. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. SPOs.
We do have contracts for the rest of the towns with the special patrol officer rate, which are in your packets. This will go to the board for a resolution. We just want to move it.
So we're gonna start from here, move the full board to approve next Friday for these rates and fees. And all the
Yes.
contracts are taken care
Yes.
of. Good. By Dave. Second by, she raised her hand. Second by Sue.
I'm watching you, I guess it's.
Okay. All in favor on the SPOs?
Aye.
And
And last, I'm just asking for 3 of the staff members and personnel to attend the New York State Association of Self-Insured Counties. It is a 3-day event, but we're only going, or hoping to go the 1 day. We do have it in the budget.
oh, it's there too. Okay.
Yeah, it's in.
We have a motion. And a second. You hold that?
No, just 3.
Three.
The workers' comp.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll deal with the workers' comp.
Thanks, Bob. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And then I just want to show these to everyone. We'll be handing these out at the fair. They're stay notified to employment opportunities and exam announcements. And also on the backside, we're able to get a QR code made that links directly to the jobs on the county site, so we'll be handing those out at our fair. As well as some other flyers that were made in-house. Live here, work here, explore here, kind of thing. And also the civil service exams that we have currently with the employment opportunities and also our benefits. So that's kind of the plan that we have so far. If you guys have any other ideas, feel free to let us know. We did go to Hudson Falls Community Night last night and had a little booth there to see how that went. We did hand out a few applications and spoke with some people. So.
And when are you at the fair?
All week we'll have at least one staff member there
During the day?
during the day.
Tuesday,
Well,
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
day and night, we're
Oh.
trying to cover, with Laura Oswald. Downstairs in LDC, we're gonna man her.
Okay. And you have some handouts?
Yep, these. and
Swag? Do you have swag to give out?
We do, we just,
I don't know what's it
we
called.
just ordered. These are what you approve.
We approved the pens.
Do we have personnel service cards?
Wow, was in your budget? Okay.
So-
Emotional materials.
Promotional materials. You can bring them in here. Can we edit those minutes, Sandy, and put promotional materials?
Recruit.
Recruitment material.
So,
Those available to supervisors, they're pretty spiffy.
they are, but they have to come see us.
Oh, okay. Should be a market. Any other questions? What we got on the end?
Yeah, I know you haven't had much time yet, but, since you're doing a staffing pattern change for social services for the senior clerk now, would it be an opportunity for us to maybe look at that clerk typist difference that I brought to you the other day at the same time? So you can just knock it off in one resolution, maybe.
Well, there's more to that.
There's more of that story.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were ready to just.
No, I'm not.
I just figured
Yeah.
we're changing the staffing pattern anyway.
Yeah, well, what he's saying is, the staffing pattern still has typists remaining on that. Where we've tried to, once they vacate a typist position, we've been putting clerk in. So this is different because it's senior clerk.
I just didn't know if something were gonna be in there anyway, if it was
Yeah,
any value to.
I'd like to see how many we have there.
Okay, perfect.
That will be like a part of the
Like the
budget. I
one save,
think.
that's.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else to come before personnel? I don't need your motion. Sorry, Ryan.
Yes. Okay. That's it. Oh, look at John, he came to the county and he's all invested. Oh my goodness. Thank you, sure.
Did you go to your news?
Yeah, he's going to Hawaii right after the
I
night.
know.
I did that.
And then he'll get back to back.
Oh, here's that there.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So you can, yeah.
We have one.
You brought Buckley.
Nothing, so-
I get this off.
Yes. I pull up the-
Okay, call to order. Need a motion to accept the July 7th minutes. Don't move by Mr. Roselle. Second. Mr. Griffith, Cassie. All in favor, say aye. Here. First thing up is the middle funnel bar engineering feasibility study. Okay, so let's discuss the loader purchase. Yeah, so funny time to get back. Paul?
I think he looks hungry.
It's big enough for everybody, Bob?
He's ignoring us.
It's freezing my drinks.
So we reached out for contract prices for the loader. We got 5 back. Of those 5, 4 are contracts that our purchasing currently works with. So the lowest one is United. It's a John Deere. And it's for $176,985. We also got some trade prices from some of them, and this one had a trade for the loader that we are going to declare surplus if we buy a new one for $27,000. So the net cost is going to be $149,985. The only difference between this one and the other 3 that are on state contract is this one has a 3-year warranty and the other 3 have 5-year warranties. The delivery date is November of 2022, so that's not, so hopefully that's true. So
So we don't have to move any money.
no, there's enough money in the budget. We budgeted $155,000 for it, and it comes in at just under 150 once you do the trade, which would be different accounts, but I think it works all out.
Everything specs, how does it warranty?
We inspect it this time.
This time we just did a state contract.
We're just shopping.
I just wanted to point out that that was basically the difference.
And is there an option to go to 5 if we wanted to? or
This
just
one,
later?
I didn't see one that had an option to 5. Some had 3 and 5. This one didn't. So. Good.
So with it being under budget, we're all set. We don't need any action, or we do. need action?
Well, when it's off state contract, you don't.
That's what I'm thinking. It's we're done. This is everyone's happy with this. We're happy we do it. Continue this. All right. Very good. Thank you. Okay, Batten Dugan Bridge.
Well, I don't think that's anything for me, honestly. I know that sounds crazy, but that's just,
The March is.
yeah.
Okay. Very good. And that would be, there's a budget, right? Yeah, resolution. So sum up the budget salary funding where it belongs.
And then B is the budget.
Yeah. The motion to move A and B. Move by Dave, second by Cassie. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay, and number 3 is declare the van surplus, so Graham will keep driving.
Let's see.
So you looked into this and it was the $3,500 value on the black book, whatever it was.
We looked into, the Kelly Blue Book value is $3,098 to $4,445. So I don't know if you want to change the 3,500 or just keep it that. I don't know. Yeah, right. Did you, do you agree?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay, we need a motion. By Cassie, second by Stone.
Going to the village.
Any discussion?
Well, would you agree to 39?
My God, I thought I had $1,000 back for a minute.
I didn't think it. That's. Oil pan 34. Draw line. We would call you, we would do over the year. Well, we were down for a couple of weeks, right? So typical local sites can offer like $700 installment. We ate that. you and I had already agreed on this when that happened, so I didn't really want to have that. So,
Before you change it.
I'll
Now I get
pay
hurt on-
35
All
for
fair
it.
say aye. Very good.
And then, that's about it.
I think Tom, unless you've got something special you want to tell us.
Well, did we want to address, I want to move this recycling grant thing forward, so did we want to address charging residents or not? Can we decide that, or should
Tell
we take
them,
it back?
tell
to
them
the
what
committee?
that came out.
So you can charge residents. The only thing is that the amount collected is deducted from the grant.
So it's pointless.
So you can do all kinds of math on that, but it's deducted.
And it's labor.
And I think you're gonna have us.
True. I agree.
So. Nobody's gonna do it.
You put a sign that says donations accepted.
Tips, then I'll get tips.
Oh, who's gonna?
Send Boy Scouts.
The question is, I don't remember how it was left in that committee.
I think it's set to
Anybody's
take
told.
to
Are we
committee.
good in finance?
Take
Or-
back to committee. But we'll just start writing up the thing, and if it changed the RFP, and if it changes that committee, I guess. But I just wanted to know.
Well, I would think it would have to go to, does that have to go to the full board yet? That's why I don't want to.
Right.
Comes out of the committee. Application, right?
I mean, everyone's here except the chairman.
That's not code, right? So,
I don't know.
We're gonna start writing up the.
Is that a motion? Do
RFP.
you want to move forward with the RFP?
Yeah, move forward with the-
Move by Dave.
Go to the application. Now, is that-
Second, okay, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Period. That was easy. You know. Say bye.
Thank you.
Real property. Let's see, maybe the chew it. Oh, there's another one. We'll make this one quick. Then we'll get you back.
Okay, so we have a property in the town of Greenwich that has been purchased by the state of New York. Property was purchased in 2020. When the property was purchased, we did do a write-off on this property for the 2021 taxes. Because it stayed owned going forward, but we did not realize that there was a delinquent tax bill out there. We were working on the foreclosure, it came through, that there was a delinquent tax bill out there. The state is not gonna pay that. So I would like to write off the 2020 delinquent tax bill. Al will do a resolution, he's got the amounts for that.
D in your packet.
Oh, okay.
What's the tax on year 21?
Yeah, it's a 20 or 20.
20 roll.
It's 20 roll for 2021 taxes, so it's a 2020 assessment roll
When it's
for 2021
2021.
taxes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I didn't realize it was already. So I'd like to,
We need a motion for that. The moved by Mr. Hogan, second by Cassie. Any discussion? I'm gonna say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Jones, how are you?
At 10 o'clock, engineers are actually going to call in to present the Middle Falls kind of overview of how they're going to do it. And then go through here, I believe the next step is to be, I think, government ops, where they actually give the report with the whole bunch of numbers and everything else. Before they go down that road, just going to get the overview. I do have the handouts for that too, so you can take a look at the property and what the size of the building is and stuff, that sort of stuff. So it's,
So if we hurry, we got time to get everything else done before they start.
so that's at 10. So one thing that did come up this yesterday or the day before we have 2 chillers in this building. I did have one on the capital plan, I think 5 years out. I don't have it in front of me. One of them did die the other day. So they are rebuildable, but they're 30 years old. And the one that died, the estimate for to rebuild could be up to $250,000 to rebuild. that you don't know till you get into it. It is gonna be significant because the biggest part of it, which is the motor, is what needs done. So there's no parts to buy, you have to rebuild it. It's the suggestion, and we went back and forth quite a bit for a day, is to try to replace that one and save the parts that are all good for the second one. So you have some sort of redundancy. The problem is right now, if chiller 2 breaks down, we have none. And the cost to try to cool this building, is pretty significant when it comes to, if you're in an emergency, you have to start cooling courts and cooling everything else down. I know you got questions.
What's the cost of the chiller?
We're coming. So the new system, my best guess estimate would be between 500 and 600,000. So I think in the original capital plan, which is higher level, I said, oh, there's 2 chillers, is going to be like 1 million, I think we kind of put in there. Now with today's new technology, the chillers are 250 tons each. What they have now, and this building was built around them. They put them in there, then they put steel and they built the building. So without knocking actually exterior walls out, there's no replacing what you have in there. What they have is these modular type units. So they're 80 tons each, but they hook up in series with each other. There's a lot of technologies that helps us, because now in our shoulder seasons, like spring, fall, you're not running a full capacity 250 ton. It stages. It might be 80 ton. So not only is the energy savings much better, it also gives you some sort of redundancy. You'd have to have it engineered, whether you'd have like 3 or 4. But now, and the service techs that I talked to were pretty comfortable saying if you did replace this, the parts off that would keep that chiller number 2 in place as the catch-all for everything. Would you ever use it? Maybe not, but if it's not being run, just cycles on and off, there's a good chance it'll last, 30 years to back up. But the true redundancy is if you have 4 in their stage, most of the time you're never really running 4. So if one of those stages breaks down, you would still have, 2, 3, 4, which would probably do most of the load. So at this point, it's emergency, but it's more of a priority because you can't just order one. You just can't order these modular units. You have to, you got to engineer it, the new water flow and the water system, the whole thing. And there's just a 30-week lead time just on getting the units, let alone the installation. So I don't need to pull emergency lever because we just can't pull an emergency lever to get them. It's impossible. But I would like to start the engineering now to speed it up, because if that takes a few months, to get done, and we put it out to bid the right way, we don't pull the emergency lever, you're still looking at next summer before you could replace it. So what I'd like out of today is motion to be able to go out to the engineering. We do have ME engineering on their mechanical specialist, on our retainer. So we could use them. I would do the same thing. I make them give me an estimate like I always do, and review it and make sure it's what we need. And then we can go from there. So I know this is a capital plan farther along. The funding is you guys, I don't have that in the budget. So it would have to be like a capital plan or something to that effect.
So this will be our group that goes out and does the RFP to go out.
That's right. Right. They make the job package, everything from how you get rid of it, what you do with the refrigeration that's in there, and how they get it out of the building, because it's got to go out 36-inch doors. And it's as big as this tape. All 4 of them, probably, if I put these 2, that's the size of each one of these units. And it's got to go out doors. So it's a job.
I'll move that.
Moved by Daryl, second by James. Yes.
Well, I'll probably bring that to, I'm gonna try to see if they can give me the price, and I'll probably bring it to government ops. And if it's reasonable, which I will know, I'll suggest that. If it's, something's up, they've always been reasonable, but I'll still bring it to the committee, the final price of it.
know he's putting engineering on this right now, but do we know if there's any grants or any sort of funding for energy reduction?
Well, that we'll look into that. I mean, in a couple of days, I don't know. The engineers that we hire would definitely know that, right? They're in the business of engineering these every day. If there's anything out there for the energy savings, we'll be definitely trying to take advantage of them. Let you know.
And the, so now we have two, right? And the second one is as old as the first one.
Yeah, they were both,
But before the same time.
yep, they're twins.
And so the construction of the outside is different than the other one. So would it be better to look at the engineering studies doing two rather than one? Side?
Well, the technology of this, instead of putting one in to replace one for one, you're actually putting probably four in to replace one, four smaller ones and that go in line. So it had, I don't think so. I think that second one as a backup, you have a lot of redundancy if you do it that way, if you modulate that one that we are replacing. So in the long run, I mean, I said $1 million on capital plan, I think it was something like that. It was almost a little bit better news. Not saying that they were good news that it breaks, but the fact that the technology is out there to be able to stage smaller ones together like that. I know they've done it in heating. I didn't know they had done it in the, industrial chillers, but they have. So, all in, if it's say 600,000, I don't ever see the point where you have to replace that second one because you're redundant. You have it there, and your redundancy is in the small ones now.
So you're saying if that chiller does do the same thing and
Yes.
done, we can add maybe two more units.
You might not even have to add them. You already have to, right? You might never even have to add them any more modules because the four, if you put one in and then one's down of the four modules.
You got time to fix it.
That's right. You have time to fix that. And it's definitely gonna be more efficient. I mean, that's, if you're running a 60-ton unit or 80-ton unit, in the spring and fall, versus firing up the 250-ton unit every time, you're gonna have, a lot of savings. And I don't ever say saving dollar-wise because the price of energy will double today or tomorrow. Kilowatt hours is gonna go down.
So we can get engineering fees out of the capital.
Either out of the capital plan or it is budget season, and if there's something, I don't know how much it's gonna be, but
How does this readjust the capital plan priorities?
they happen.
Something gonna get, well, that's fine for now, right? Something in the capital is gonna be bumped down.
Yeah, well, for something.
Or we can put in the budget like we should have done last year and make it happen. And that way
The first priority.
this would never be a problem.
Yeah, okay, so this meeting,
We didn't have the time to go through that list and see where it was.
they'll be thinking about later today, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Their meeting today.
Good time.
Well,
Okay, we're good.
I didn't have time to discuss that part of it.
Budgeting,
You made sure that the thing broke down.
Oh, I am far from requesting.
So budgeting, engineering.
I live in the nightmare every day.
You can request this one to stay alive until winter, so that
I had the power for requesting, I'd be admitted at home first.
all favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Looks like your guys here.
Yep, looks like we have Beth and Kevin and John. I'm gonna pass these out. Might just be easier to see. Yep. No problem. Definitely. Agree. It's gonna be on the screen too, I'm sure, but. That's why I got lots of.
When it comes time.
We're around.
They're on, but they can't, in order to show their screen, they have to. Yeah,
Okay.
it's time to know.
Well, maybe with this we'll be able. We're ready anytime you are.
Okay. I think what we'll do is our plan is to bring up our preliminary floor plan. John, do you want to bring that up? And we'll talk through our layout, or proposed layout for the new Middle Fall site. And then we'll talk a little bit about MEP, and then we'll talk about site civil.
If you can't bring it up, we do all have copies.
Yeah,
Okay.
it says here on my end, host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, we have to get somebody like you to be able to do it.
Okay.
We
So
are
do
looking at it.
you want to just go from the drawings you have there and I'll discuss it, or?
You guys, if you want on the screen or just from the drawing.
Oh, wait, somebody got me in. Okay.
Yeah, all the people.
There you go.
Okay. All right, I think we're in. Can everybody see this?
Good, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, let's see, well, good morning, everybody. I'm John Sharkey from Rhinebeck Architecture. I'm gonna just basically talk about the plans, very preliminary plans and elevations for the project. So basically we have the building plan in front of you. It's about 10,000, a little over 10,000 square feet on the ground floor. We have a 4-bay garage, basically a drive-through system where the trucks can come in one end and exit the other, much better for traffic flow. And then a 5th bay on the end would be for administration. We're basically showing a front entry door here. There's an option for one office. There could be 2 offices rather than more of a meeting area here. Toilet rooms, we show a break room here, storage and mechanical. Again, very preliminary. We're not sure the exact sizes you need. I think the half of a bay here is pretty efficient. We're also showing a stairway up to a mezzanine above those areas, if that's the wish of the county. We have it in there as an option. I don't know if you need that or not, but we figured we'd show it so you have it there. I'll zoom in a little bit here so I can get a better look at it. I'm sure you have it in front of you. So yeah, basically we've made the bays deeper. We looked at some other bus facilities, and a lot of facilities are made 90 feet deep, and it doesn't give a lot of room to get around the trucks with plows and all that. So we do have this building at 94 feet, which would make it much more efficient again. Very preliminary, so we're just working through that. And then a simple elevation. This is what, metal, we're anticipating a, concrete block foundation for durability, and then metal building above, metal siding, metal roofing, pretty straightforward materials on there. And that is pretty much it on the floor plan. Again, the ground floor was 10,340 square feet here. And if the mezzanine was added in, that was about 1,900 square feet roughly over this entire administration area, or it could be smaller depending on what you need. And that's about it. It's just wondering if anybody had any questions, or we could move to either the site plan or Beth, whatever you'd like to present next.
Yeah, I'll walk through the MEP system, so it kind of ties into John's floor plan.
Okay.
So for HVAC, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, what we're planning for the building, we will have a fire protection system in the building, sprinkler system. We will also have, for HVAC, the thought is a radiant floor system out in the 4 bays where the trucks are. And that would be using probably propane fire boilers for the hot water. And then we'll also have an air handling unit that'll probably serve the common spaces. We've got to have some energy recovery in there for ventilation purposes. So we'll include that. The break room will probably have a split system. So you will have air conditioning in that space as well as heat. We'll also put some unit heaters in to help with the overhead doors. So even though you'll have the radiant floor, we'll also have unit heaters tied in to the overhead door controls. So when those doors are open, those unit heaters can help with that heat loss while those doors are open. And then obviously once they shut, just to deal with that influx during the cold temperatures. Electrically, we'll have obviously all LED lighting. What we're thinking for the bays is we'll have the lighting sort of along the perimeter of the bay, so you're not interfering with the spaces directly underneath, so you don't have lights just sitting over the top of the the trucks themselves, but project the light in on each side for the bays to give you guys the best coverage if you're working on the vehicles or in and around that area. From a power standpoint, we'll give you guys the ability to bring in a portable generator, so we can provide you basically a hookup outside, so that if there is the need to bring in some temporary power, you can bring in a generator and hook that up. Plumbing wise, obviously you've got all fixtures. We can certainly talk about types of fixtures you guys want if you're looking for sensors and things on faucets, or we can just go manual with those. I think those are pretty much the highlights of the MEP system. If there's any questions on any of that.
Yeah, and the unit heaters in the ceiling, are they hooked to propane? Or are they radiators off the same boiler as everything else is hooked to?
Yeah, we'll probably put everything off the same boiler system. We'll do hot water unit heaters. If we're gonna have hot water for the radiant, we'll produce hot water for both the air handler as well as the unit heaters. That'll keep everything pretty efficient, and most likely propane.
So to back up on when you were talking about the structure of the building, it seems like every school builds something with truck doors, and then all of a sudden we're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to raise the doors. Is there enough clearance that if equipment growth becomes taller, that you are still gonna have room to grow on the garage door openings?
Yes, right now we're showing 4-foot high doors, and the way we design them is we have them follow the rake of the roof. A lot of times other projects have the doors come up and then almost 90 straight across. We make sure we follow the slope of the roof, so we have that taken into account.
Okay.
Just to jump in real quick, Beth mentioned sprinklers. I drew a little dash line here while we were talking. The new building code basically says, anything over 5,000 square feet, they want you to put a firewall in, which is very costly. So if we were not to sprinkler the building, we would have to put a firewall in along this line here, which means you would basically have to have a 3-hour rated wall between these bays. And then to get back and forth, you'd have to put in a double doors with a coiling door or a automatic closing door. And it gets very expensive. So it's much more efficient to sprinkler the building. And then you don't have, the only room that would really have to be fire treated would be, any kind of fluids room or mechanical room. It basically opens the building wide, so it's much more efficient.
I've got a question. Metal building set on block walls.
Yep.
The reason why we didn't 4 walls.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Do you prefer block over a 4 wall?
Oh, no. Well, I said there could be a veneer, or we could do a concrete block or poured concrete foundation. Those are both ways we've gone. Poured concrete foundation is fine. We would have to do some insulation, obviously, on the inside, but the steel frame would be totally enclosed behind whatever foundation wall we have. So it would either typically be an 8-inch poured concrete wall or a narrower concrete wall with a brick veneer or masonry veneer if aesthetics is an issue.
Yes, I don't quite see, maybe you've got it in there and I missed it. Is there work surfaces or workbenches for, places for the tools and other assembly items? I do recommend leaving the stairway in to a mezzanine that's good storage above. But I was looking for the workbenches and those sorts of things.
Yeah, again, this is very preliminary. We're just trying to get the spaces, but the stair would come up this way, so we would anticipate that there would be, workbenches all along here, space here, and then there would potentially also be some space over here. But those are the details we get into. The building's big enough to include all that. The next phase, we would show all that in place.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we leave this, I just want to note that there's 4 what looks like truck bays, and in talking with DPW, I believe the last one, they're really looking for a place to store their paving equipment and everything under cover. And this was the location that Middle Falls that we chose if we were going to do a new building. You could probably see that last bay end up being the paver and all the equipment they use every spring, you know, someplace to keep it in the winter where they can work on it off season and undercover. So I just add that in. It's not all trucks down there, you know, some of it's planned for the future to be able to keep things in. So, yeah, basically, highlight it. And then as we get farther into detail, we can go that. I think we're good
So if we're
there.
good with the floor plan, we can take a look at the how the site lays out. That might give you guys a better kind of overall picture for how things are coming and going around the site. Kevin, you want to bring up your site plan?
Sure. Let's see. Okay, can you see that screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is kind of a larger oversized view of the area. North is up on this page. This is Route 40 that the site fronts on. To the north is Bolson Road. Up here, over here is Hagerman Bridge Road, to kind of give you an orientation. So the original site is this, well, the site is this red bounded area. Originally, it did not include this yellow area here. And you can see your existing building right here on the site. As it was configured, the site was very difficult to use, especially to accommodate required setbacks. So you have approached the owner to the south and apparently have an agreement to add about 0.6 acres, this yellow area, which makes the site much more usable for you, which is a great step forward. So all told now, this red area encompasses about 3.6 acres, and you have about 150 to 200 feet of road frontage. The other thing is Route 40 is pretty flat and straight through here, so you have great sight distance both ways for safety. So all good things for site development. Let's see. You're probably familiar with the site, but there's a couple photos here I'll share just to get everybody on the same page. So this is from Route 40, looking east into the site. There's your existing 3-bay garage. This end is an added temporary type structure. Let's see, over here is some storage and the salt shed. Your fueling, diesel and regular, unleaded, are up front. You have a couple site lights around. And behind the structure, you have a little bit more storage and parking, and a large laydown area back here in the woods. So you've seen this, I'm sure, but this is kind of typical of the front of the building. At the rear of the building, you have a wood furnace as well as other storage and other uses. Here's a temporary trailer type additional space added on. There's the salt shed. The salt shed will be enlarged in our proposed plan. And we're going to keep the salt loading station where it is and as it is. And then just a little bit close up on the fueling area. Let's see. So for the existing conditions, if I could just run through quickly. We're obviously talking about removing the existing garage and temporary building, as well as anything along the back here, to make room for the new structure. This is the salt loading a ramp and a loading area. We're going to keep that where it is. This is the existing salt shed. We're talking about enlarging it, so we'll remove and enlarge. Here is the fueling area. Over on this side, we're we're looking to keep the same function there, but the systems are getting older, so we're gonna look at improving it, upgrading it, new dispensers and new tanks going forward. There's that yellow area that you added to the site, which makes all the sense in the world. And then here's your lay down area over here. Utility wise, you have an existing well, which is basically inside the building at the center of the site, about here. From what we understand, the well is adequate capacity and quality. However, in the proposed condition, we're going to be looking at a new location for the well to adhere to all requirements. There are overhead utilities for power and communications that come off next to Route 40 to the building. And we'll talk about that for the future. And then for sanitary, on this side of the building, you have your septic tank, a grease oil water separator, and then a couple seepage pits out here underground for the existing system. And as we understand currently, there are no problems with that. In the proposed condition, we're going to keep the building pretty much in the same location on the site, just turn a little bit for better use on the site and required setbacks. What we're talking about is putting parking for users toward the back of the site. The blue here is a stormwater management pond or basin that would be dry in between storm events. We're talking about pavement around the building and in front. Still keeping the lay down area back here in the woods. This is the existing salt ramp and loading area, keeping it as is. Here's the enlarged salt shed. So to give you an idea of its location on the site, and then we'll get a little closer. So for utilities, we're talking about going out to Route 40, bringing power and communications down the pole and going underground, a new transformer, probably in this location, and then underground service to the building. For fueling, we're talking about for gas and diesel, for unleaded and diesel, keeping it at this location. I think it's 3,000 gallon diesel, 2,000 gallon unleaded that you have now. We would be duplicating the same thing with above ground tanks and just new dispensers. And that is a whole design in itself for controls, monitoring, everything else. So that's something we would take on in the future as we develop the site. Let's see, as far as the mechanicals for sanitary, we're looking at relocating and putting new septic and oil water separators out here in this grass area and tying back to the existing seepage pits. We understand they're working perfectly well now. Going forward, we want to go through and take a closer look at them, make sure they're going to be adequate for the proposed loads that we're looking at. But right now we would stay with the same system. If needed, we could add on to it, or we may need to look at a traditional bed system, but that's going forward. As far as water, the existing well is in this location now. We're talking about abandoning that, closing it, and then moving the well over to this location, which will give us proper separations from sanitary, from the building, from the property line, and from the septic systems. So that's a new piece that you'll need to look into. Development of the well is going to be important, and seeing what kind of a yield you can get to see about having fire protection in the building for sprinklers. If there's an appropriate yield, you may be able to draw off the well. If not, you may need to put in an underground tank for storage of an adequate capacity and a pump to be able to use a sprinkler system. The other side, like John had explained, is adding a firewall inside if you don't go the sprinkler route. So that's something to be looked at in the future as the design progresses. For powering your mechanicals, this area on this side of the building, the mechanical room is down at this end, could be a location for your propane tank farm on this side of the building. Easy access for filling and adjacent to the uses here in the building. Let's see, stormwater. Like I said before, this area in the back is a naturally a little bit lower area, so it's a good place to collect stormwater so that we can meet the regulations by DEC. We need to clean up the water, right, for quality, and then slow down the water quantity so that no more leaves the site than happens today. So this basin can help do that. Because of the kind of the orientation of the building, and it's fairly flat in front, we may need to do the same thing, but underground. So what we've shown conceptually is an underground stormwater management basin or chamber system. And basically it would do the same thing as out back, but you could drive over top of it, which makes a lot of sense. And as far as circulation, we like to do a counterclockwise circulation around the building. This way the driver can always easily see when they're hugging tight, or if there's an obstacle to get around, it's easier for them to look back in the rearview mirror on their side. So we would promote a one-way direction around the building in a counterclockwise direction. Like I said before, there's about 12 parking spaces out back for employees. And then up front, there's another 3 up here, 1 handicap accessible for visitors potentially to the site. And there would be the kind of the front door to the administration area on the building.
Kevin, in your configuration, you've got vehicles coming in from both directions.
Yes.
Of the building. And for safety reasons, I prefer that they drive straight through, but is there a reason we can or can't, or is it just take more square footage inside the building to make it so everybody's headed in one direction? Because of laws.
Yeah. There's actually really adequate space. To give you an idea, from the building back to this line, there's about 112 feet of pavement. So there's room for being able to come around back and pull in.
Yeah, but you don't back out each time, and that's where the, anytime you can see better going forward always than you can back.
Right.
So that's why I'm just asking, is there a way that we can make that so they just pull totally through rather than backing out?
That's definitely can be the case. This just gives there's the option there available that if you have a vehicle in the front part of the bay that you don't want to move or can't move at the time, and you want to bring somebody in, you have the ability to come around and do that. But you're right. You can also, like John had pointed out, pull straight through the bays. And yeah, whenever you can pull straight through, it's safer, right?
Is there enough length or width there to put them back to back, or both in the same direction with the plows? Because when you pull towards each other, the plows they kind of come
right,
in
the angles.
So you have more room. Is there enough
right.
if you put them both headed in the same direction? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, we can check that, but as John had noted, we made the building slightly wider to make it easier to get around the vehicles. We can definitely check that and make sure there's no issue. I don't believe there would be, but we can check that.
Yeah, we'll verify it.
Sure, that 94 feet to accommodate that.
Yeah.
Yep.
One other thing I forgot to mention was the existing soils on the site. They are an Oakville sandy loam type or hydrologic grouping A, which means that they're very well drained. So that's really good news for infiltration. We'll still base any design of stormwater pieces on infiltration testing on the site to verify that for DEC. But that's a really good sign for being able to take care of a lot of stormwater in a smaller footprint. On the other side, we have to make sure that we provide adequate filtration for the septic system. So that may, that is probably why you're having no issues at all with the seepage pits that happen or that exist there today, because they are so well drained. We just want to make sure they're not too fast, and we can take steps to remedy that if need be. But all in all, it's a better soil to be on than clays.
Any questions?
We have an existing well, why wouldn't we just use it after the fire suppression system and drill a new well for the use in the building?
The location of it, kind of where the building was, I believe is the answer to that. It's right there.
Yeah.
I think with the size of the new building, it's right now it's in the building almost. So if you were to overlay a new building there, you're not going to be able to put a well inside the building. You can't do that in you can put a well in the basement. You may be, but the location of it is just poor. It's right in dead center in the. I asked, I think this goes back a few months. I asked them, I'm like, please don't design this, multi-million-dollar building in location over a $10,000 or $15,000 drilled well that we can put somewhere else. Like, let's not make the $70,000 worth of concessions or how your traffic flows because of an old well or an old septic. In the size of the project, you kind of look bigger. Like, I understand saving money, but it's not dictate where the building is and everything else.
And probably most likely, you would probably need a storage tank anyway for the fire protection. As a general rule, it's typically pretty difficult to get that kind of fire flow out of a well. So probably regardless, even if we could use that well, we would probably still need a tank. So it would probably just be as easy to only have the one well.
Cars or for trucks? So I answered this at the last committee meeting too. So right now, you're talking to electricians and everybody, as far as planning forward, Route 40 has the infrastructure to power whatever we need for charging. Right now, we don't know what the charging is of the future. As it is, level 2 is already starting to go away. The building is big enough, so if you had trucks to charge, there's plenty of room, but you're talking electricity, you're not talking an extra bay for charging. It would be charging in place. And as far as cars, are we charging employees' cars? What are we charging? If we had more information, if I have more information, I'm not telling you, it's not coming, I'm not going to go down that road. But you don't have enough information right now to design something that you're comfortable installing now for 10 years down the road.
What is it? There's enough room.
There is
enough room.
The room is, what do you want? Projector? You got a public charge there? I mean, if you're thinking you want a parking lot and a roof and we're going to charge people's cars, I mean, that's a different, we don't have space for that. We're going to charge employees, trucks, there's plenty of rooms on site. It's right where they're parking. You don't have space for it. You just put the charger where their space is. You see what I'm, even now, technology is not going to get bigger, right? It's just it's a spot, but you're already parking there. You're not having another spot just for charging. If we had more information, I would be all on board to say, let's put it in there, but we don't have, there's no guidance out there for big trucks on how you're going to charge them, what you're going to charge them with.
I don't know if they're allowed to charge them inside. I've never seen.
You have a 3.6 acre site. It's going to be a bigger thing than just planting another spot. It's going to be something different than any of us even know right now.
Yeah, are you comfortable upgrading all the fuel? You're trying to get out of the fuel business for 10 years.
Yeah, I would
You
prefer,
want to put all that money in there, or you want to get out?
I would prefer to get out of the gas, and into the Wex card, but everyone's been opposed to that, so until they change their mind. Well, enough so that we can't get rid of gas.
But all the time, because you're looking at it, you're gonna get a number of what it costs to upgrade all that gas infrastructure. Is that number gonna get you to the point where you're gonna advocate to get out of the gas business and save that money?
We already have been in the position where we could advocate to get out.
No, but you're down from a global countywide standpoint.
Yeah.
Here's your test case, here's your beta to say, hey, here we go. This is the way it is.
There's plenty of places to buy gasoline down in town. Yeah, that's what you got to cover with requirements. Diesel, I don't know if you dare, I just don't know with emergency vehicles, that's a tough call. But gas, I think you could easily be out of gas. And I think we could buy Foreman's trucks that were diesel. There's better resale value, they last a little bit. I mean, it'd be out of gas as far as our highway trucks.
Matt, you look at rooftop solar. Rooftop solar, not at this stage we haven't. So
That's a weird with the geothermal.
as we get farther down the road, you know, this is the overview of the layout of it, you know, the details would come in.
Geothermal.
The details would start coming in, and then when we went out to bid for the engineering, the full engineering, you would start in the RFP, you would ask for price things on this, whatever we want to put in there.
Great question.
No, that's the guidance we need before we go.
On the West Guards. You try West Guards. Not get state contract price.
No, but you also don't get the maintenance and upkeep of fuel systems or the liability.
I'm just saying.
But that's, no,
You need to look at numbers.
it'll cost you a little more in gas, but you'll save it on, I mean, I haven't extrapolated that all out. But the cost of the system, you'd have to buy a new system. Well, the upkeep of the system, I have to buy the new system and then to replace it years down the road. It all adds up. I'd rather pay the extra in gas than the extra in the system.
Yeah, well, I think in the next step of this, if Kevin will give some rough budget numbers to upgrade that fuel system, you know, at least the budget number gives you a discussion. Right now, we just
Yeah, can you give us a number like, I assume it was gonna be together, gas and diesel both, can you just separate them out so we know?
Yeah, they would be separate tank systems, separate dispensers. The one thing that may be in common would be the monitoring system. But otherwise, they're two separate pieces.
Are they starting, the engineering firm is starting to look at, say this already going in that direction? And are they familiar with what it would be in 2037? No, I mean the engineering.
Heather,
Yes.
Have you started working with, looking at, down the line, they're talking about electric snowplow vehicles in the building, that as a firm, I'm sure you're starting to get questions about it. And wondering if that's something we should be thinking about, because hopefully this building lasts for another, 75 years.
Right. Personally, I put some photovoltaic panels on my roof about 15 years ago. And I just talked with a gentleman the other day, and now I can put 3 times the number of panels for the same price. So prices are obviously changing as the market demand increases and production increases. As far as accommodating the vehicles, and we can plan for that for down the road, but until you're ready to go there, there's the systems are changing, they're developing, they're getting more efficient. So we could estimate what that would be for whatever size fleet you're looking at. but until you're ready to pull the trigger, the systems are changing fairly quickly. So we could look at kind of the pros and cons of putting systems in place for the future versus waiting or making it easy to accommodate or to change, right? So we can look at that, and if you have an idea of what types and how many vehicles you would be looking at charging, that would be very helpful.
Kevin Sue also asked about the water system for heating. Geothermal. And I don't know about commercial buildings, how advantageous that is or isn't. I've heard conflicting stories. And at the same time, I've heard that they plan on doing away with diesel fuel at one point, even at some point propane and whatever. Is there, and all the funding seems to be for existing buildings, not when you're building a new one. So is there a way to look at that futuristically as to what we would do after it was built if we wanted to change so that we don't have anything in the way?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question.
Okay, yeah. We could look at potential field locations. Most likely it would be a vertical field here, I'm guessing, not a underground loop per se. So we could look at designating an area, probably like maybe the laydown areas that you're using now, that are kind of temporarily used as a potential field location. I guess I would look to ME a little bit on how much, or making that transition, what we could do to accommodate that in the future, and then also sizing so that we appropriately plan for the future.
Yeah, the challenge with any of the ground source is knowing what you have on site, right? Is knowing what the ground is like, knowing what the conditions are like, so that we know what kind of heat transfer we're going to get. So typically what we would do is, if you were interested in going down that path, is you would want to get a test well done to know what capability you have, and that would be able to give us a sense for how big of a field you would need. Because it depends on the number of wells and the depth of the wells, how large of a space would be required for the building. So that would be your first step, would be get a test well done if you were interested. They are pretty expensive. They tend to run around 15,000 to 20,000 to get a test well, but that's really the best way to know what you have from a capacity standpoint.
Is there efficiency in a system in a commercial building of this size? I guess that would really change the conversation. If it's not efficient,
typically,
yeah,
typically ground source heat pump systems, people are generally doing them more from the standpoint of having a quote unquote green system. The payback of them is still not great, honestly. The cost of your system tends to be fairly expensive, and for the small of a building, I'm not sure that it makes a lot of sense with the loads you have. What tends to happen is, your payback is so far out that, you'll be replacing your equipment before the system pays back. So I don't know that it's the right application. You could certainly look into it. I'm not sure without checking with our folks on if there are any incentives available. That would usually be the path you would want to go if you could get any incentives out of, say, like NYSERDA. To potentially pay for some of it, but then there's some upfront costs to looking into that and doing some modeling. So it's a bit of a commitment to go down that road, but it's certainly something you could look into if there was really a strong feel that you wanted to investigate a system of that sort.
So I just wanted to point out that the CHIPS Act includes some pretty significant incentives for renewables. I did look at heat pump. Don't quote me on this, but I believe it was about 40% reimbursement. So I would encourage taking a look at those incentives if that's something that you want to consider.
Would you guys speak to the positive, negative of how a heat pump system and a geothermal actually works? So I just want to give a quick overview. If you're if you're eating with it for 6 months of the season, you need to cool with it for 6 months of the season. It's a positive, you're pulling heat out of the ground, so you don't shut it down. You have to cool with it for the next 6 months to put the energy back into the ground. If you don't, you continually to lower the temperature of your wells to the point where they're unusable for you. You've exhausted your wells. So when you do a geothermal system, if you were just planning on heating them truck bays in a big commercial building like that, you don't need air conditioning in that area. You're not willing to do air conditioning. Geothermal really isn't a good option. I'm pretty positive with those facts that you can find locally where people have gone green or wanted to do that, got money to do the systems in there. Now they are buffered with propane or fuel because they don't work anymore.
The answer to that?
If I'm wrong, tell me, but I don't know.
I was gonna say, was it in Kingsbury, the new facility? I think they use geothermal for the
Just for the office.
administration. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm talking on the bigger scale, the whole
Yeah, right.
building. You know, offices are one thing because you're going to be heating pool in office, but if you want geothermal for the full building, you're prepared to say, we're going to also cool. You're going to run fans all year. You're going to run a cooling system. Okay.
You got anything else? Any questions for this team? Very good. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Great effort.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. So moving on. We are on to the treasurer.
We got the package. One thing that pleased me a little bit was we got a deposit on August 5th. It was over $100,000 over this time last year. And I was really concerned on where we were going because if you remember last month, they hit us for the $1 million. What that ended up being is the state recalculated so during COVID, the activity down in the city, 5 boroughs significantly shifted. And a lot of things were shut down. So the state does kind of a look back on their estimates on the disbursements, and then they true it up later. So the estimates they have been given the county, the upstate counties, the 57, was based on the year before. And then when New York City started putting their actual reports in, the true up showed that a lot of the sales tax had shifted back to the 5 boroughs where it had been previously. So the fact that we were $100,000 over this deposit is in the new math, we'll call it. So I mean, we were still trending a little bit up even after that redistribution was done with the 5 boroughs. So I'm fairly happy that it wasn't another dip. We'll see where the rest of the year goes. There's really no way to guess where the market's going. All I can say is that I'm happy that this number was positive. Cash balances, everything is looking great. I'm actually pretty pleased where we're sitting in cash right now. Remember too that we're also sitting on second tranche of the stimulus money. So the happiest thing I have to report there is I have an agreement with Montreal National Bank. They have what's called an ICS account, which what it does is I'm able to put money into like an investment account with them. And because they can spread it out over several banks where the FDIC insurance insures it, and they don't have to collateralize it for me, they save money and can pay a greater interest rate. So as of the 9th, which was 2 days ago, they have me at 2.2%. The best rate I've seen in a very, very long time. So I'm trying to maximize as much as I can. I have to keep enough operating cash on hand, but I'm trying to keep as much through that investment account as makes sense at the time. But that 2.2% It also means that we're gonna pay more when we borrow money, but at least we're getting a little bit more bang for our buck while it's invested. So that was the happiest news that I had.
The good news was we borrowed from the flow.
The good news is we're growing a little and making a little bit more on the investment. So when you look at like the American Relief Plan money, and even the $3 million that we're gonna have in the capital plan, at least those monies, while they're sitting there, we're now actually getting a little bit of return. We can maybe even make enough interest to be able to leverage some of that money back in. Where we weren't getting enough interest in the past to even speak of. We now have be able to actually use some of that interest. So
And it gains the interest within the fund it's in.
yes,
And you can't always move that.
right. And we had that discussion, as you know, we're semi-self-insured for our health insurance. We have an MS fund where all that money sits. The good news is we built that fund up to a point where the interest of that might actually be enough that we can reappropriate some of that money. And as the markets start coming up with these 7, 8, and 9% increases, we can kind of mitigate. We can use that fund balance and the additional interest to kind of rate stabilize for the county and the employees. Because remember, it's a 75-25 split. So the fact that we can get 2.2% on that money, it's going to give us some options moving forward, try to soften some of the pain that we're all going through right now.
And even money in the capital plan would gain interest in the more than the walls.
And then I just shared for informational purposes, I shared the OTB this year, the casino distribution. Don't know if I've done that in the past, not sure remember, but I thought.
And so well, you couldn't find
Yes,
it.
it was, yeah, it cycled out for a while, so. I think it's probably worth you guys seeing it when it comes in. Whether it's quarterly, something annually, I think it's something that you should see. And going into the budget season, you can never have too much information, I guess. And the last thing in my packet, I did share with you the 18 and 19 delinquent tax properties that are in the vein right now. These are as of yesterday. So as you can tell, there's a lot more there than when I'm coming. I'm hoping that as we start sending out courtesy reminders and even as we start signing the properties, those auction signs when they go up tend to not quite a reaction. I'd like to see this number come down significantly. I mean, we're still 77, 79 on 2018. I think was the last count I had. That's significantly higher than it should be, considering that auction should have happened in October 2020. So we're another 2 years out from when that should have taken place, and the number hasn't softened. So that's and the reason I wanted to share the 18th and 19th with you is I also wanted to share with the board, because each of the 3 years that's out there is done as a separate enforcement. Looking at the timeline, I think 18 and 19 is going to be the best case that I can get you to. And I'm talking best case. Because again, we still have to go through the postings have been completed, properties that have to be posted. There still has to be an order drawn up for the judge, the judge still has to schedule it. So there's still things that have to happen. I think that the best case we're looking at is 18 and 19, which would leave 20s and 21s. So there could be another auction in the spring, or we could do another year of 2 years next October. That's not anything you have to decide today, but I am sharing with you that there's almost a 0% chance that all 3 years will have an issue. 18 and 19 is probably the best case that we're looking at this one. So yes, sir. Mid to late October is still the target date. I'm looking to have the board cooperate and agree that online this time is a better way. A lot of the counties that have tried it have got a much better response from the participants, and they seem to be getting better bang for the buck as well. So a lot of times, when you have the live event, it's one and done. If you brought an auction for 10 to 14 days, people that couldn't have been there for that day that maybe would have participated now can participate. Then you have that dynamic bidding where, hey, this guy outbid me by $1,000. Let's go in and take another stab at it. So I think that it's gonna be beneficial to the county doing an online auction, especially because when you think about it, a normal auction year, the delinquency for 3 years. We're now looking at 5. So it's gonna take more revenue for us to even make our liens. You know, we've talked in the past about
Right.
how comfortable we are with the surplus. This time around, I'm gonna be happy if we make our nuts.
Yeah.
The liens are so much bigger now because they're 5 years instead of 3. That it's gonna take more for us to even recoup what we have on the books. So I think that the online auction is gonna help us at least stand a fighting chance to maximize that. Mr. O'Brien?
So if I look at just one, for example, on the 18 list, first one, that amount due is all the years stacked?
No, that's just that bill. Yeah, on these lists that I'm giving you, it's only the amount for that specific bill. So when we get closer to the auction, I'll be able to give you a, because that property that you're looking at, that's just that bill. That property could also have 19s, 20s, 21s, 22s. There could be 4 other bills on that same. Right,
it's
that
not
reflects
on the
just that year. Right.
Because it's taking out 18, it's not showing it 19.
Right. The dollars that you're seeing are just for that year.
And is that keep it because now it's on the 18 months, it's not on the 19 months.
Right, so you shouldn't see any duplications. So if there's a property on the 18 list, it should not also be on the 19 list. Because the 19 list is a separate enforcement, and we don't put them on the 19 enforcement, we're already enforcing on the 18. So you shouldn't see duplications.
But that one bill could include a school levy in the village levy, and sewer levy,
Many times.
anything like that. It's just that one.
Many times it does.
So it would like a whole year's worth of.
Many of these ones that are on our auction list contain levies.
Yeah.
It's very common.
And reverse redemption still applies.
They have not changed it yet.
So in order to pay this bill, you must be current on your 22s that are out there, right?
Right, so I don't know that the state helped them at all.
So it's
because
a big nut. You
They
gotta.
don't gotta come up with 5 years to be saved. So not only are we out 5 years, they've got to come up with.
How many of the ones you come around these 18 months?
So last fall, I sent another courtesy letter to just the 18s. The 18s and 19s, I got one more courtesy letter from me that an auction has been scheduled. There won't be a date, but it will let them know that, you know, this is your final notice. And it's a courtesy letter that we're gonna do once we're at that point where we have the request for summary judgment done and we're have a schedule with the court. Then we'll be sending out a courtesy letter under the video saying this, you know, this is your last. No, really, this is your last. We've done a couple of them because they keep moving the goalposts on us. That's where we are with the auction process. And I'm not gonna tell you that there could be a hiccup where we only do the 18s. I'm comfortable looking at the 18s across the finish line. My absolute goal is to get the 18s and 19s, but I can tell you that it will not be the 19s. Just looking at the timeline, I just don't see that. Because it's all the same steps, 3 different times. So you have to follow each, you can't like bundle one save in this one, unfortunately. It's each
So that
one
means
separate.
next year there would be 2 again,
There'll be 2 again. So you could do a spring and a fall, or you could just do 2 again in the fall.
which is easier on staff.
6 and 1 half.
If it's online.
Haven't said, well, yeah.
It shouldn't be.
Where you have to get everything, staff has to do, I'm one of the staff, and this is the front end. Yeah, hard work, right, I mean, after the summary judgment, then we really give it to Russ and we'll do the rest of it. Right,
So
so
our
there's a lot of steps that have to to go. that, right, there's a lot of stuff that goes in your collective taxes up until April or whatever, so it's hard to do one in the spring when your staff's working on all that.
Well, right now, the only town we're collecting for is Fort Haven. So January, February, March isn't a heavy lift year. You know, that's our normal, whatever our normal is, that's a normal time for us. The October auction actually is a little bit harder because we're now, we're collecting sewer in October. We're now, one thing is going to be shared. You have another school that's supposed to be, we'll be collecting for 3 schools now, which is September, October, and November. So it's, the fall auction is actually kind of coming at a busy time. But what's nice is we've got our current auctioneer and the new agreement with him he and his staff have the ability to create the deeds and the recording documents. We sometimes have to tweak them, but we're not starting from scratch. A lot of our staff's heavy lift was, we were literally having to do all the recording documents, all the deeds on all these properties. They're now being done by the auctioneer. That's part of his 6%. Buyers bring, he's charging back to the buyers. He's now providing that service. We just have to review them and make sure they're right. Sometimes we have to read them. But we're not doing 200, we're doing 1. So, the burden on staff is lightened since we did that switch.
I could see where a May auction or something, because people have some get stuff refurbished. They're trying to flip it.
The biggest burden is the months leading up to the auction, because the phone calls are just, they're astronomical. And they should be. I mean, these people are in danger of losing their home. They have questions. So that's the leading up to the auction is really the busy. And so I did share with you that Argyle School has approached me to collect their school taxes this year. Their board meeting was Tuesday night. I have not heard back yet from the business manager, but he didn't anticipate any hiccups. And right now with whatever in Argyle, we can do that comfortably with the staff that we have. If people keep knocking on my door, I may have to come back to you and have a conversation. But right now we can fit those 3 in. Because again, it's September, October, November. The 3-month window, we can make it fit. One of the things that we did is we switched over to check scanning program. So we used to have to sit there and handwrite, 200, 300 checks on deposit tickets. Now those checks get fed through a machine and they create a PDF document or electronically deposit. Huge savings. So it has freed up definitely some time on that end that allows me to kind of take on some of these other things without really an impact in somebody's business. Those efficiencies are very much appreciated. We did have 2 properties that we don't have to talk about today, but we will have to talk about. We have a liability that's the Sea Sky property, and is that in Argyle?
Argyle, yeah.
We continue to pull that from the auction because it's a potential liability. We have not 1138 in it. So the problem is taxes continue to tick away. Right? So either it's going to come back on the roll, we're going to take it at some point when it's clean, or we're going to 1138 it, or we just say we're just not going to take this property, and then you got to charge back to the town, the school. So the bigger that nut gets, the bigger the chargeback is going to get. So at some point, we're going to need to talk about, do we continue to let the bills accrue, or do we stop the bleeding, get it 1138 until such time as it's clean and then restore it to the roll? We don't need to have that conversation today, but we will need to have that conversation.
And we'll have a little
We
more
can.
information on that when we do have the discussion. As to what the problems are.
But we can have that discussion now, take 30 seconds. That's the easiest thing to do. No, I mean, as far as what's wrong with the property, that's an easy discussion.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with the property?
There's a lot of dumping, soil contamination. DEC's got, excuse me, DEC's got tickets out there for the prior user of the property. Posted, there's upside down trucks in the driveway. And it's Bob Hankey still on, he's familiar with the property too. It's a mess. They supposedly went in and cleaned some of it up, but no, there's a creek running through it, and there's stuff in the creek, and it's just, you drive up to it, and you're like, wow. It's just a mess, physically, in the ground.
And this one doesn't fit our program. It's too expensive or something we can.
Oh, we could, it would be, we'd have to take it and test it.
But with this would be, you would have to do that temporary incident.
Yeah,
Ownership
and
the project
see
talked about before,
exactly
and then
what's
pay
there.
for one, and-
You know,
I mean, you can start diving down that road. Check. Well, the testing wouldn't be that.
Right.
It's what the testing reveals.
Right, what the testing reveals.
Which is why you only make the temporary incident. You wouldn't
right,
actually
and
take-
DEC is on top, I mean, they know that there's issues with that property, there's a gentleman.
They've
who works
actually
at
shared
DEC,
with us.
he's calling me on a regular basis saying, we've got more, there's more stuff here, what are you doing, we're not doing anything right now with it, we're,
Temporary ownership is.
Right.
We do know what you're saying.
we
So to go through there, to go do a bunch of testing,
We already know.
to verify that the DEC's already told us.
They've been very helpful.
Well, how
Yes.
expensive is that to clean up?
Well, we should be able to get, should be an engineering study. Somebody, who, you know, based on what DEC, just get a rough estimate.
That's the only way you know, 6 or 7 figures.
And remember, there's cleanup and there's county owns it.
One pocket of paper,
Yeah.
Yeah.
those dollar bills is due. The other property that we'll be talking about at some point is a property that there is, one that has back taxes on it, but it's just the house. It's not the land that it sits on. It's Canal Corp owns the land that it sits on. Canal Corp at one point had approached us and said, hey, why don't you take that and just give it to us? We had board approval then to do it. And then crickets, everything just, whether staff turned over or whatever, but that just went away. We've reached out several times, or I both have. So at some point again, we're gonna need to have a conversation. We will never take this from, because it's literally, it's just the house. It's not the land that it sits in. It'll be an absolute nightmare for us to get involved.
It's a vacant house, not in good shape.
It's not, yeah, it's not a good property on several levels. So if we can't make a deal with the Canal Corp and take it and give it to them, there'd be no reason for us to ever take it. We'll need to have a 11:38 conversation about that property as well. There is a property that I want to talk to Roger about at some point. This is in town of whatever, that's already 11:38 that bugged me because it's been operating on the business for years. And we were able to fix that problem in one hall. We had a very successful example of my hall where it turned around and everybody, it seemed to be very beneficial to everybody. We have another similar property in Fort Edward, but we don't know that it's the problem. So.
Yeah, 30 seconds up.
But they have been operating. Been operating for years. Third, it was 11:38 a long time ago. So much more environmental stuff. It just, you know, that's one of the ones that sticks in my craw a little bit. So that's just that's the first blush at what the lists look like. We hope to get them trimmed down. We're on track, I think, for 2 of the 3 years. That will increase the price, but more information as it becomes available, you know, maybe next month. I do know, I'm surprised that I hadn't heard back. I do know that the village of Fort Edward has an interest in talking to you about one of the properties that's on the list. That they had to go in and shore up to make safe. And so they have a conversation that they'd like to have with you about, you know, maybe either transitioning it over to them so they can recoup their money or some kind of partnership with the county. I can't speak for them. Their attorney has asked for a visit. I was actually surprised I hadn't heard from this meeting. I'm sure before October, you'll hear from the village forever if it's still something that they're interested in.
Thank you, sir.
The last thing that I have, I'll pass this around. Next year's sales tax distribution change.
The biggest since ever done.
So there's good news and there's interesting. The good news is it's up from last year, which you know. The interesting news is because this is the year you have to recalculate because of the census. It appears that a lot of people in our county have moved more towards population centers. So you'll see a little bit of red on the town section, but a lot of black down in the village section. Village of Greenwich was one that really stuck out to me. They had quite a growth. I want to say it was close to 500 people in the past. You know, the last measurement was the 2010 census. This is off the 2020. And Greenwich was one that stuck in my head. It seemed like it was around 500 people that migrated into the village. So you're seeing a little bit of red up on the top on the town sides because the census on the village sites have actually grown. So you see people moving more into the village centers over the past 10 years, obviously. So that's, I asked Laura to be here because if you had questions regarding the census, I was not going to be able to speak eloquently or intelligently about that. But these are based on the numbers that were provided to me. So I know you all like to use this because you're in your budget seasons as well. So these are the numbers, barring any changes that are not on my radar at the current moment.
You're assuming the census number.
Well, I don't doubt the source I got them from.
Hey, Al, Al, you can email those, can't you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, when I
Thank you.
was going to scan an email earlier, but the print was very, very small.
Thank you.
If I email the file, it'll be easier than printing them because the type is so small.
Cassie, can you read it now the way it is?
I mean, the other one, I had looked at it for a few minutes. Went, oh, I'll take it.
Sir,
My life.
sorry.
You said this last year's.
Last year's census.
Oh, the percentage.
assessment. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem.
Very good. I think we're back to the amendments. Well, amendment E is the sewer district for the HVAC project. So motion to approve that. Moved by Cassie, second by Dana Holmes. Any discussion on that? Favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay, resolution F is information technology budget to BWI patrol vehicles. Motion, James Griffith, Cassie Fowler. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, authorize the sheriff to sign the police traffic services grant contract, amend the budget. Motion, Cassie, second, James. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Resolution H. Men title by grade schedule to establish pay rates for special patrol officers. We already did one of them, and these are the rest of them. Motion, Cassie, second, James. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
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 Resolution I is to amend the budget for the mental health block grant, $25,000. Motion, Sue, second by James. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Resolution J, approve the Lloyd Champlain Lake George Regional Planning Board budget.
This is pretty. Wow. Yeah.
Making sure that's how you can pay for it.
Yeah.
Salary, you stipend and a salary.
I got a zero on both of those.
You get some part of this.
Yeah.
That's where you.
Okay, motion.
Yep, sorry.
Second by Sue. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 The resolution K, standard workday reporting. Moved by Sue, second. Cassie. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
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 Carried. Resolution L is to authorize the purchase of real property. SUNY Adirondach is buying a house that's on their lot. Well, it's not their lot, but it's in the corner of that section. And it's half paid for by the state and the other half comes out of their chargeback. So. We have a okay. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? By Sue, second. James, is there any discussion? Questions for Dr. Melvin?
Point behind her to that map. Go like this, Doctor.
Go for the houses. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. And rates. And the electric rates are the next thing. So it's on the back. That's like in resolutions, is the electric rates. As you can see, we were locked in at 4.662 cents. And these are the new rates, which are up considerably. Not really surprised. The discussion we had, as soon as we looked into it, we called one guru that works with us from Mega, and he explained what was happening is natural gas makes up the slack on providing energy, and due to the war is the big thing. There's so much liquefied natural gas leaving the country. It usually can provide 7%, now it can only provide 3%. So when we were talking to him the other day, it reached 95 degrees, and to buy a kilowatt hour spot price was 50 cents right at the moment we were talking to him. So he sees January, February, and March is somewhere in the 20 to 30 cent range on the variable. So his suggestion was you would lock in. So I guess I can't argue with that, because at 30 cents, it would, over a 3-month period of time, would be huge. This way, you know the cost, but as you can see, the difference of what it's going to cost us, per year is it's pretty big number. 195,000 more if you with the 50 months.
We want to go up 50 months. Right. What happens to the?
Well, you got to. So the only way it really changes is the regime change, which I'm sorry to put it that way, but the way they're running the system, this is being done on purpose. So it'll be 2.5 years before it changes. So you have to go 3 to get beyond the same course. 5 where you're just saying, will the same group still be pushing that price, or will there be a change and we'll try to get a cheaper energy? That's all it is. I don't know if it's going to change. I don't know. But in 3 years, you will have already spent so much at that one number that maybe 5 just levels out. I don't see a downside on the 50 month because it's not. It's 4 years.
So we're going with Constellation again?
Yeah. What we were signed up with is bigger. Yeah.
So it expires in November. Are you asking us now to make a decision? Think the contract?
Not only that, this price is good till this afternoon.
That's what I'm gonna add.
When we pass this, whatever we pass, it's a done deal this afternoon.
So the resolution governing this allows this committee to make that decision. Because of that short-term time. So it doesn't have to go to the full board, they'll get it here. Since we're watching our chairman and vice chairman on TV, and we need to sign that up this afternoon, I'd also like this committee to consider as part of whatever they decide to do, if they decide to do something. Authorize the budget officer or someone is to sign the contract as well. He has the authority to pick the date. He has the authority to authorize that. So we can get the thing signed and not lose the money. If that's what we need.
And in the 2 weeks since we started looking at this, it was like 9.9 cents. Was the low rate.
You're saying last week, sorry, going up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
It's already up over more than half a cent.
So we're here to debate our.
Just which plan you want, or do you want us to just stay variable and take whatever it is? So those are your choices.
May not be.
What's the month term we're talking about?
It's 15, 27, 39, and 50.
Did you get
Right,
an
but I
email
mean-
last night?
No, yeah, so are we gonna lock for all those months? I thought you were gonna, what's the duration of the lock?
You're gonna
you go
pick
for it.
one, you pick one of them to lock into, or you stay variable and don't lock in at all, and you can take whatever the price is, right?
Price is gonna fluctuate some.
Yeah, I guess my question to the committee is, which one are we leaning towards? A longer lock or?
This is the biggest variable that I'm saying, it's not gonna change, this is gonna continue.
To get worse.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That's what I think. That's why I was going, I prefer to go the longest because I think it's only gonna get worse. I don't see it turning around.
I mean, the difference over the time between the 39 and 50 is, what, 40,000?
But that's per year.
No, it's 10,000 per year.
It's 10,000 per year. What's that?
10,000 per year. So it's 40,000 total.
The difference,
Between 38, 39. and 50.
our budget has to go up that amount every year. That's what it
No, I
was.
get what you're saying,
We're not going up $10,000. We're not going up $10,000 next year. We are going up $195,000.
I get you.
That's the point.
He's saying the two choices differences.
Right.
But but it's according to what, but it's compounded over how many ever years it is. If it's 30 years, it's 30,000.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want you confused with this.
No, I know, but you're right. If there's a administration change, 2.5 years from now, or,
Yeah. How long before it changes back?
right.
That's what I'm considering, and I don't see it changing. Only getting worse.
Well, I don't watch Fox News, but I don't think it's a good thing, so I'm not, what I said.
When's the war end in Ukraine?
So we're staying variable off the table. That's not an option, correct?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So, anyone seen the rates come down significantly in their lifetime?
No.
This side.
We actually did go down the last
Yeah,
one.
we think we're 4 cents left the last.
No, we dropped to 4 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were at 5 something the last time.
I'm making a motion.
In
to go
fact,
27 months.
we had a chance to lock in at 3 years. We had a chance to lock in 3 years and we only went 2 the last time, so it's gonna cost us.
I make a motion, we go to 27 months. Discuss it either, pass it or shoot it down, and then go to the next one.
So you want to put more on the budget for next year.
It is what
That's
it
what it
is.
does. I just want you to understand that.
We all get that, but it's gonna be more no matter what anyway, compared to last year. People are chasing you left and right now, so it feels like they don't. Makes me think it's gonna go down. They're chasing you so hard to lock you up on all of our people. So makes you want to lock. They all want to lock you down right now. That makes me nervous.
I agree.
Everything.
I still think it changes for 3 years, but you're thinking in 2 it's gonna change. Pretty good.
Think in the future.
All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Anybody opposed?
I don't think there's, I don't think you got enough either. Different seats.
Yeah.
I don't think you got that.
So.
We don't did it.
Ooh,
I think we did it.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead. Ready, so-
Got 6.
You only have $1, right?
They have 2 no's. Yeah, I just don't think.
Did we have this again? I said yes, you said yes, and she said. Well,
Daryl, you said yes?
Correct. I said yes.
You know, said yes. No.
None of us know.
So we're the no. So we're the no. No.
Mr. O'Brien was a yes. Mr. App is absent. So there's 1. Mr. Hicks was yes, there's 2. Mr. Evans, yes, there's 3. Mr. Kelly's absent. Mr. Hogan was a yes.
No, he's a no.
All right. Ms. Clary's a yes. She's a no. All right, so, yeah, you're now close to 6.
Try again.
I motion 39 months.
Is there a second?
Definitely. don't.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So how many, roll call again?
Okay, Mr. I'll be the vice afternoon. Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien. Mr. Happ is absent. Mr. Hicks. Ms. Fedler.
Yeah.
Mr. Skelly is absent. Mr. Hogan.
No.
Ms. Clary.
Yes.
Mr. Rozell. And Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
And Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Six. For no. I'm sorry.
It's only five.
I think it's so five.
I don't want the first one.
It's not. With the absence, it's not.
Right, when you get these.
Let me let them just say afternoon. You got 24 hours.
But you don't want the first one and I don't want the last. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle. Really prefer the second one. It's just.
It's crap too. I have no idea.
Right, I feel less risk going longer, but then I also think like, if there's a change. You know, there's a social economic change throughout the world, I can't do how the distribution, then we're stuck paying a higher amount for another year. Not quite, it's still at 402, actual average.
And then actually, not locally.
Yeah. You guys want to walk the spot, what do you would say?
Yeah, it's 396, right?
What?
It was 396. Yeah, they were 396 a week ago. I haven't seen it, but I heard them tell it.
They're always low, they're, I don't know what else they sell there. Yeah.
Okay, so what are we gonna try next? We're gonna try one of the two again. We're gonna go lower and longer. Or are we just gonna go back?
40 cents tomorrow.
We text Dana, see if we'll do it, so we can be the tiebreaker. You can total control of our usage.
I'd love to hear it get here.
That would be fun. We have lunch. It's. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
you'll get a new post soon, for short term.
Right, and you don't know if it's going up or down between now and then. Like I said, it went up half a cent in the last week.
Today, and that one's good till tomorrow, but yesterday it's still good today.
No, it's 24 hours from when you got it. That's why you got a chance today to get it locked in. It's weird. I'll say it, but the way it is.
They're not gonna. So like, in the review of yesterday's. Index reports. Fuel was still. Gasoline was. Energy was still. When your core index is 38, bill.
I think for the natural gas,
So
that's
less than
what the question.
Would it be proposed 27 months long with the time frame issue there?
that.
No, why was it 27 month? That, not the price, but
But we'll get to.
You won't, you get to election day, but you don't get any change.
Right,
it's
So-
3 months after the election.
but you won't have a change until.
It'll be 3 months
After now, after today.
No,
So then 24 months from today.
That's in November. It's 24,
November
27
1st, right?
after November. So it'll be February of 25.
But they won't, they can't change it instantly.
Wow.
It's not something you can change instantly.
You have a point there.
It took a long time to get.
Pre-midterm, these numbers should continue to go down, right there.
I don't know, it's been going up right along.
You guys really
I
think
watched it every
the
day.
election is gonna make the difference?
No, the actual change.
If there's a change in administration.
Right, if you change in administration, what put it up?
You'll get a change in how they're going to reallocate the use of their funds. They'll change. It's, you know.
This is market driven, these prices are market driven. They're not government driven.
Again, I go back to what happens in Ukraine.
Yeah, because it's the
Way
natural
more than
gas.
an election.
Right.
All the natural gas is going to Europe. That's what's going
Right.
on.
No, but I'm saying that if it's an election issue you guys are hung up on, this is gonna be February of 2025 after the election. So that's, at that point, you can then predict the future.
At 27 months, right?
Yeah.
That's what.
27 months from November.
You want to try it again?
Interesting.
I'll make a motion this time on 27.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. And then, what is the second about the signature?
Oh, yeah.
If you want.
I make a motion that we allow.
Well, I think that's what-
Well, it's.
We'll put Brian's
Shannon,
name on that, because
You can let the administrators. He,
That the budget officer allowed to sign it comes back this afternoon.
I'll second that.
That worded properly.
all in favor, say aye.
But,
Aye.
Carry. Others? Oh, you have another.
I have one other.
you want to cauliflower crab? You want it?
Well, you want to watch TV?
It's not really that good.
Included in
Something
the,
on that to do.
included in the state budget, was a program called New York State Healthcare Worker Bonus Program. The reason it's not on your agenda is because there's a lot of questions, regarding the program. What it is a bonus program that pays out money to those in the healthcare field. It's a mandated New York State program. The qualifications for the payout of the funds is set by New York State. It's mandatory. We don't have a choice of whether or not we would like to participate. And there are pretty strict guidelines in the program as far as who is eligible. The way that this would work is we would actually have to work with our Department of Public Health. Right now, it looks like it would be a program that's available mostly or just to public health employees. The question is whether or not this is just for the nursing staff or if it encompasses clerical staff as well. It is a program that is supposed to recognize their service during COVID-19 pandemic, and it is supposed to work as an incentive to recruit and retain, thank you, recruit and retain the current staff. There are guidelines as far as the amount of money that people can make in order to be eligible for the program. The cutoff is $125,000. Employees have to sign an attestation as well as the employer. There are different tiers for bonuses that are paid out. They're anywhere between $500 and $1,500. But you would not, or we would not pay out more than $3,000 per person. So at this point, I should mention, these are not county funds that are going to go out to the employees. We would have to do the paperwork, enroll the employees into the program. The money is actually sent to the treasurer. The treasurer would have to give that money out to these eligible employees within 30 days. So what I am looking for at this point is your approval and a resolution authorizing the treasurer to participate and sign all documents related to this program. Again, it's not.
And this would,
It is not, I believe I read, there has been a lot of confusion with this program, from anywhere from unions to NISAC. There's all kinds of questions being asked. I don't believe it is taxable. I haven't seen that.
The people in public health as the payroll of what date?
There are 5 different tiers, vesting periods, they call them. And they are all 6-month periods. So you have to look at the payroll for those periods, see which employees were, which amount of hours, because there's different tiers. If an employee works less than 20 hours, 20 to 30 hours a week, it's $500. If you work from 30 to 35, it's $1,000, and if an employee works 35 or more hours a week, it's $1,500.
Per 6 months.
Yes, but they can only get paid
For
twice.
how long?
Yes, and it went back to October of
You only
21,
get,
right?
yes,
It was October of 21.
For 35 hours a week.
they'll get the $1,500, and they can get that twice
First
for
check.
2 vesting periods, so it'll be the $3,000.
But the first vesting period started in October of 21. Right.
Yes,
This is for, so it just started
Worked it back.
a year,
Yes.
less than a year ago.
they still have to be on the payroll
They
as
still
of
gotta
now,
do it.
or they're not eligible.
Right, if you're on the payroll now, you're not eligible either.
And they're not, and admin is not.
That's what we believe right now. Right now, we believe it's just nurses. But that still needs some clarification, because there are groups advocating.
But if you don't
that-
pay 10%, you get fined, right?
Yeah, because it is a mandatory program. If we do not include 10, if we leave out 10% or more of our employees, we are eligible to, be fined.
If we leave out
There'll be
10%.
recourse.
Or if
Yes,
we
they,
don't-
they allow you up to 10% of
They're-
yes, skipping or making mistakes for up to 10%. If it's more than 10%, then you,
And that's coming out of state budget, so the taxpayers.
Well, actually, how come with it? It's something you better go to the paperwork.
basically it's happening.
But this would come to the full board hearing too, right?
I would be asking for resolution, yes.
So,
That's what I think.
so even,
Take the program.
yeah, so even though we pass it today, we might know more by next.
I'm hoping.
It is,
Know a lot more.
it kind of is what it is. Yeah, you know.
Well, no, we just have more clarity.
Right, but.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Moved by Dana Hogan, second by Cassie and John. Any discussion? Discussion is exhausted, all in favor, say aye. Pass. Yeah.
And there's a deadline, it's paid out within 30 days.
Reason the resolution is kind of more aloof than normal. We want to be able, because the first deadline of this is September 2nd. So I'm gonna be able to move really quickly on this. That's why we're kind of looking for, you're just saying, let Al do what he needs to do to make this happen. That's kind of the resolution. The aloof resolution.
Yes, that is seven.
I don't have.
Make it the residence program.
Okay.
You know it's coming. Yeah, like it's fun negotiating with you, I know I'm already against.
I'm not leaving. I'm just asking for more.
What's the end date?
It goes forward
The-
every 6 months. It goes forward.
Oh, so we can,
No.
so we can miss the first one then,
But you only get 2 of them.
right?
So if you're here for the first 2, you don't keep getting them. But if you're not here yet, and you're here for 2 more, you get, or 1 more, you get those.
Wait a minute, if that's today, if that's because of being a third mistake, or you get fined for each quarter. The second one has that,
The one that do.
so every time has to happen, or you get fined from this.
That's not due.
And if we actually took care of everyone in the first 2, the second 2 wouldn't matter. Everybody that paid, unless you hired someone.
We're in the second one now, but it's September 30th, so we're almost to the second measure. So we might be able to knock out.
Might be able to.
That's
all-
what I was thinking.
Okay.
What's going on?
You only get 2.
You know, you know, too.
You might get 2 from a different employer.
Yeah.
Second.
Wow. you- Take a fork in that one.